Hello, Abraham. I felt that it was really powerful. And I think I'm almost there, but I would like my sexuality back.
Well, do you know where sexuality is? It's right over there with alignment. It is. So get aligned and it will be there, or even get in the vicinity of it. Do you remember what you felt like on the whole when you were feeling that sexual energy?
Yes, I do.
Well, give us some description of it. On second thought, we'll give you some multiple choices. Did you feel more in love with life or discouraged about life then?
I loved life. It was a freedom that I had, and nothing bothered me. It was just a freedom.
So you had a zest for life that was pulsing through you in every way because your stream was moving rapidly and you didn't have a whole bunch of things that you were fussing and worrying about that were holding you back from the momentum of the stream. So when you identify that and you're hearing it clearly, now just ask yourself, what are the main components of my life today that I'm using as my excuse to fuss and worry? What are you fussing and worrying about?
Marriage and children.
So, for example, what comes up most often?
The amount of time, the responsibility.
All right, so this emotion that you're describing, during which you're using the word responsibility, has an emotional component that we want you to try to identify. Does it feel like...
It drags me down.
It drags you down. It's logical to use those words. Does it feel like resentment?
Very much so.
And resentment's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because resentment, it's really close to bondage, because what it says is, I've made my bed and now I have to lie in it. In other words, resentment says, I made choices that I must keep that make me feel not good. That's the best description of resentment that we could give. I have to feel a way I don't want to feel because of the conditions. And that is the biggest lie that humans tell themselves, because you have the option of feeling differently without the conditions changing. But you didn't know that then. In other words, the reason you felt full of yourself and the reason you felt your sexuality flowing and the reason you felt so free is because then the conditions of your life that you were merely observing allowed you to feel that way. Now the conditions have changed and now you're looking at those conditions and you don't feel that way. And you think, I've got to change the conditions, but I'm not willing to do that. I don't want to get rid of my family. I don't want to get rid of all that is, but I would have to do that in order to go back to the free feeling. And we want you to know you don't have to change the conditions. You just have to little by little get pointed more downstream, because it's not the conditions changing that make you feel resentment. It's the vibration. It's the direction of your thoughts, you see. So give us an example of something that causes you to feel in a sharper way than usual that resentment. And we put the word there for you, but it is close to what we are feeling. And we don't want you to feel bad that you feel resentful. In fact, we're glad that your fingers are sensitive enough that you can feel that hot stove. We want you to recognize that you've got some chronic thoughts that aren't letting you go with the flow. And we also want to remind you that in all that feeling of being held back, you've been launching so many rockets of desires of wanting more freedom that you've got a very, very fast moving stream going, and you've got to let loose and go with it. And when you do, oh, the feeling of freedom and sexuality will return to you in a very powerful way. So give us an example of give us the nitty-gritty.
Okay. Well, here's a recent one. I just bought a motorcycle because it just seems like freedom, and I have 2 young children, and I can't go off and leave and ride my bike because I have them at home.
So the motorcycle represents freedom,
It does.
and the children represent bondage.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people feel that way. So now let's talk through it. So I can't go ride my bike because I have these kids. And in this way of saying it, it feels very upstream. Now, try to find something that softens that. In other words, we don't want you to fix it, and we don't want you to ride your bike while you're feeling that way either. We want you to find a way of not riding your bike right now and not feeling resentment. We want the condition not to change, but we want the resentment to go away. So how might you go about that? You see, because if you use the bicycle to inflame your resentment, then that's counterproductive, and that's sort of what you've been doing.
Yes, because I scarred myself. So I knew that I wasn't in alignment.
That's why we don't want you to ride your bike while you feel resentment. So try to make that feel more downstream without changing anything in terms of the condition. How could you soften your feeling of resentment?
I think that's where I'm having my problems.
All right, so here's what we would do.
Okay,
we would say things like, I don't really want to ride my bike every hour of the day, just on occasion. I don't want to be with my children every hour of the day, just on occasion. I like being with my children. I loved them coming into my life, and I like so much of the time that I'm with them. I believe that I can manage my life better and better so that I can have my children and my bike too. I just have to figure this out, and I will. And meanwhile, isn't it lovely that I have this bike? And isn't it lovelier that I have these children?
That feels good.
Now your resentment just went away.
It did.
Now nothing changed in terms of riding the bike, but the resentment went away. So now let's say that that bike's out there and you really want to ride it, and you are now feeling slightly better, and now if you've done that a day or two or three or four, and you've managed to soften the resentment to the point that you wouldn't even call it resentment, you'd call it hope I get to ride my bike soon, instead of feeling resentful that you can't. Now somebody says to you, I'd love to watch your children while you ride your bike. Or, how long do you think you want to be gone? A week? No. In other words, why don't I watch your kids while you take a quick spin around the block or whatever? In other words, you'll begin to see that as you feel differently, the universe can yield to you things that match your different vibrational stance. When you feel this way, everything matches that. And you know what matches resentment? Nobody comes to help you. Nobody knows you're alive. Nobody tries to help you out. Nobody seems to see you. You seem to be invisible. Your children are ornery, even though you're sacrificing your entire bike riding life for them.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
When you feel that way, those are the kinds of manifestations you must have. But once you release a little bit of that, and now you're loving your children, you're loving your bike, different manifestations match that vibrational balance, you see. Mm-hmm. So you just keep shifting and shifting until before you know it, people are saying to you, you are the best mother I've ever seen, and I've never known anybody that spends so much time on a motorcycle. How do you find the time? And you say, I don't know, it just seems to show itself to me. People are coming from out of the woodwork. People are wanting to be with my kids. My kids are loving this. Look, that's my newfound nanny following me on my bike in her car with my kids. We're going up the mountain, and when we get there, we're going to have a picnic. And when they get bigger, they'll be on the back of the bike. And when they get bigger still, they'll have a bike.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.